Okay, we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. We're plugging our way through 24 episodes in a row. This is the podcaster's path. It's going to be 24 episodes taking you from initial beginning, ideas, concept of a show, all the way through to having your podcast and having an impact through your podcast in the world. So this is meant to be a starting point for anybody new to podcasting. So if you know somebody who is thinking about starting a show and they go to YouTube, they go online, and they're just overwhelmed with the amount of information, please send them a link to this playlist on YouTube, send them a link to the show, howtopodcast.ca, and give them this as an option, as a starting point. We're not selling anything here. There's no big programs. There's no services. There's no offering. It's just content that helps podcasters who are considering starting a show get started the right way and make it as simple as possible. So your sharing of the episode would really help, and you being here is amazing. Let's get into this. Today we're going to be talking about choosing your podcasting path. You've kind of gone through the idea. You kind of the idea of concept of starting a show. We talked a little bit about tech, but now we got to pick our path. Where are we going with this podcast, and why is that important? Choosing your path is probably one of the most pivotal decisions you're going to make when you're launching your podcast. It's the difference between a scattered show that tries to please everyone and anyone to a show that magically and magnetically draws the right listeners into your world. Too many beginners make this mistake of going way too broad. They just want to talk to everybody. Talking to everyone only to end up with an unfocused episodes with zero traction, poor listenership, an audience that doesn't know where they fit. Here's how to get it right from day one. Imagine someone launching a podcast about everything in life. Parenting tips, quick recipes, motivation, career hacks, gardening, automotive care, mountain climbing, and how to catch a tuna fish. Okay? They pour hours into their episodes, but downloads stall because no one really knows who this podcast is for. Listeners tune out. They feel overwhelmed. They look at a sea of topics in your episode titles and they're like, none of these things speak to me. Then they pivot. They narrow to helping busy Canadian dads reclaim family time through simple routines. Suddenly, the show clicks. Specific audience, clear value, consistent energy, and the shift turned a hobby ramble-on podcast into a growing community. Your path, your niche, here in Canada, we would say niche to my great American friends. Your niche, your niche isn't just a topic, it's a promise wrapped around a specific person. Frame your podcast as to who plus the problem, plus the promise. So let's frame our podcast around the who. The exact listener. This show. New podcasters. Other shows. Solo dads. How about Canadian authors? I have shows for all of these. Pick the who. You really need to know that because your who is going to direct your questions with your guest. Your who is going to direct where you're going to go in your content. This is the How to Podcast series. I want to create a simple path for new creators to start a podcast. I'm not talking about finances. I'm not talking about growing a business. I'm not talking about Instagram. I'm talking about podcasting. That's what the show's about. So focus and frame your podcast around the who. Next, frame your podcast around the problem. What is your audience's current struggle? It could be that they're overwhelmed by technology. It could be that they're feeling disconnected from their partner. It could be that they're lacking structure in their life. It could be that they've had a terrible day at work and they just want to laugh. What is the problem that your podcast addresses, and how do you know, right? How do you know if you're reaching your audience and the things that you've promised to your podcast listener? How do you measure that? You can't measure something that you haven't clarified and defined. So as you start your journey, focus on the who. Who is this person that's going to listen to my show? And focus on the problem that your podcast answers for that person. Identify that. Super important. And then lastly, frame your podcast around the promise. Your promise is the transformation that you endeavor to deliver to your audience. For example, to confidently hit publish on your podcast, to build a stronger bond with your wife or your husband, or to craft compelling stories as an author. Your promise is how you know you're on the right path. Your promise will show up in the name of your podcast. Your promise will show up in the description of your show. What's the show about? Your promise is going to show up in the episode titles, in the content that you decide to do on your show. Your promise is all throughout your podcast. It's not just a mission statement. It's everything that you do in your show comes back to your promise. So frame your podcast around the who, the problem, and the promise. Those are your three main things that I want you to think about as you develop the concept of your show. Who, problem, and promise. Focus on that, and we could do great things together. This focused approach to podcasting, this path, beats vague topics like podcasting tips. Too broad. Podcasting tips for who? About what? That's too broad. A topic is what you talk about, and audience is who craves your voice. Nail the audience first. Your episodes will naturally align, your branding will sharpen, and your listeners will stick because they feel seen, heard, and understood. That welcome mat, that's your podcast. So what's our action step? Where do we go from here on our path from beginner to pro here on the How to Podcast series? Where do we go? So again, grab a piece of paper and a pen, phone, whatever you use. And what I would like to do is to fill in this. My podcast helps fill in the blank, which is the who. Back to the framing, right? My podcast helps who. And then go on. My podcast helps go from current state, where are they right now, to desired state. So from here to there. And then continue. My podcast helps so-and-so go from here to there by, and then fill in the how. So for example, my podcast helps solo podcasters go from tech overwhelm to hitting publish weekly by simple step-by-step workflows. Say it out loud 3 times, tweak it until it excites you. This is your podcast North Star. This is wherever you get lost, this will bring you back to your main objective for your show. Pin it above your mic, stick it everywhere that you go, on your mirror in the bathroom, on the fridge door, inside the fridge, on the milk, wherever. Put this somewhere you're going to come across often. Make sure that you have a definite, defined, very concrete description of who your podcast is for. Frame around the who, frame around the problem, and frame around the promise. And that's a great starting point for you and your show. Need help? howtopodcast.ca. Love to help you anytime. Take care. If you're looking for more information about podcasting and you're looking for a community around podcasting, come check out howtopodcast.ca. It's my website where everything we do around podcasting, this show, our community, our meetup, resources. There's a lot of great stuff there for you. A whole list of free tools that you can use as a podcaster to save yourself some money. That's based on my website, podcastforfree.com, which just leads you back to my regular website. And if you want any more information as well, there's a calendar link on my website where you and I can meet anytime. It's always there. It's always available. Whatever you see available on your end, I'm ready to talk podcasting with anybody. I'd love to help you no matter what your questions are. We can grab a virtual coffee and we can talk through what your big idea is, maybe some of your struggles in podcasting, maybe some motivational things, maybe some growth things. Happy to help you over at howtopodcast.ca. Come check out the website. Let's connect. Stick around because we have a bunch more episodes here on the Podcaster's Path. 24 episodes here in a row. That's meant to be kind of your starting point for your journey as a podcaster. Or if you're going to start a new show or you want to refresh your journey and catch up on maybe some of the things you might have missed. That's what this show's about. I'm glad you're here. My name is Dave. Love to help you. Reach out anytime. howtopodcast.ca. Take care. Talk soon.